Let's turn our attention to marriage. We know that marriage is a cultural universal and that most people in every society get married at least once in their lifetime. Just asking question, putting it there, food for thought. Do you plan to get married? Why or why not? So why do people get married anyway? Let's take a moment and see some world marriage customs.
Cultures throughout the world have their own unique ideas on how to say I do. We're taking you around the globe to show you how people celebrate their big day. The dollar dance, also known as the money or apron dance, is a tradition associated with countries all over, including Poland, Hungary, Nigeria, Philippines, and Mexico. These videos feature a Mexican-American wedding and Mexican-Filipino wedding. Money is tossed, handed, or pinned onto the couple, while different guests take turns dancing with the newlyweds. The money is a great way to help with a little extra financial support and to let them know you wish them a life of prosperity. Jumping the broom refers to a wedding tradition in which a couple literally jumps over a broom. There's a misconception that it began during slavery in the United States, but it originated in Ghana and is still practiced there. The broom holds spiritual value and symbolizes the sweeping away of evils and past wrongs. Today, some African American couples include it in their ceremony as a tribute to tradition. In Greece, the kumbaro is similar to the best man. On the morning of the wedding, they help the groom prepare for the ceremony by helping them shave and get ready. It's a practice that signifies trust between close friends. In the days before the wedding, one or both of the fiancés are taken by their friends and family and covered in various substances like soot, feathers, food, and more. The tradition started as a way to ward off danger from supernatural forces. After being covered up, they're paraded around town while their friends make plenty of noise and make a scene for all to see. The Chinese tea ceremony is a wedding tradition that bonds two families together. While kneeling, the couple serves tea to their parents. Traditionally, the couple serves the groom's parents and elders in order of seniority, followed by the bride's family. This serves as a formal introduction, to show respect and to express gratitude. In return, the couple usually receives lucky red envelopes with money or jewelry. In this pre-wedding ritual, turmeric paste is rubbed onto the couple's skin by friends and family. In India, turmeric can signify a lot of things, including purity, fertility, and good health. The paste also gives the couple a nice glow for their big day. The ceremony is usually accompanied by traditional song and dance and is supposed to ease nerves. This German tradition has guests smashing porcelain before the wedding to wish the couple luck in their married life. The couple is responsible for cleaning up the shards to symbolize teamwork. The more shards of broken dishes, the better the luck the couple will have.
So the anthropological definition of marriage is the formation of a socially recognized union. It may be a union between a male and a female, between any two adults regardless of their gender, or between multiple spouses in polygamous societies. We know that there are some cross-cultural characteristics that can be found in marriage. It's a culturally defined relationship, two people from different families. It regulates sexual intercourse. It provides for reproduction. It establishes rights over each other and children. It assigns responsibilities for enculturation of children to spouses and/or relatives. And it determines the division of labor in the domestic group. However, out of the six, the three most important functions are that it forms social bonds and provides for children materially, socially, and culturally, that it defines the rights and obligations toward each other, and that it creates new relationships between families and other kinds of kin groups. And we know the incest taboo plays a part in this, and also forming potential new affinal groups. But what about marrying for love? Marriages built on love, intimacy, and personal choice rather than obligation are known as companionate marriages. So why is marriage a cultural universal? There are several theories about the universality of marriage. There's the gender division of labor, meaning that marriage is the mechanism by which men and women share the products of their labor. There's also the prolonged infant dependency theory, which is that a child depends on its mother, who needs the help of males to do the work that's incompatible with child care while she's taking care of the child. There's certain things that she cannot do and needs a male or males around to help provide and to do the work that she otherwise would be doing. There's also the sexual competition theory, which is about minimizing the rivalry among males for females, since females engage in intercourse any time of the year, unlike animals who go into estrus. There's also the postpartum feeding problem, and that is the idea that male-female bonding occurs where the female cannot feed herself and her babies at the same time. Let's talk about some economic aspects of marriage. We begin by looking at bride wealth, sometimes known as bride price, which is a gift of money or goods from the groom or his kin to the bride's kin. Out of the cultures that have economic transactions, it's estimated somewhere in 44% of them practice this kind of economic transaction. There is also bride service, where the groom works for the bride's family before or after the marriage begins. And about 19% of cultures who have some type of transaction practice this. There is also the exchange of females, where a sister or female relative of the groom is exchanged for the bride. About 6% of cultures practice this. Then there is a dowry, which is a substantial transfer of goods or money from the bride's family to the bride. She takes this with her as she enters into the marriage. It's not a payment to the groom's family, but the bride enters into the marriage with a certain amount of money or goods. And then there is indirect dowry, where goods are given by the groom's kin to the bride at or before her marriage, and about 12% of cultures practice this. So if you think that you'll get married one day, how and where do you think you might meet your spouse? Let's talk about some marriage rules. And speaking of marriage rules, there's mate choice or arranged marriages, and these still exist in many societies. There's also exogamy, which is the practice of seeking a spouse outside of one's own group. While the incest taboo prohibits sex, exogamy prohibits intermarriage. There's endogamy, which is the marriage of people from the same group. And this can include cousin marriages, where, for example, cross cousins, where children of siblings of the opposite sex are considered to be eligible marital partners, whereas parallel cousins, children of siblings of the same sex, also in many societies are considered to be eligible for marriage. Speaking a bit more about endogamy, which we said was the marriage of people from the same group, there's homogamy, which is the practice of marrying someone similar to you in terms of background, social status, aspirations, and interests. Because most people marry those they consider to be like themselves. Most of the time, the people that we end up marrying are people that we have access to. So meaning that we grow up in similar neighborhoods, maybe attend schools together, have many ways in which we come into contact with people oftentimes. Caste, when we think about the caste system in India, it's an extreme form of endogamy. And although India's Varna and the US's races are historically distinct, they share a caste-like ideology of endogamy. And if we talk about incest and exogamy, incest is having sexual relations with a close relative. We know that the incest taboo is a cultural universal. But what constitutes incest varies widely from culture to culture. Remember, a minute ago we talked about cousin marriages, and in some societies, cousin marriages would not be considered incestual, whereas in the United States, for example, the marriage between first cousins is prohibited and considered an incestual relationship. So on now to durable alliances or remarriage obligations. In many unilineal societies, most especially in patrilineal societies, remarriage obligations ensure that the marriage contract endures. Remarriage obligations require the widowed spouse to marry someone from the same lineage in order to maintain the stability of the family unit. Some marriage obligation patterns are levirate rule, sororate rule, and ghost marriage. Levirate is the custom where the man assumes responsibility for his dead brother's widow and children. Sororate is the custom whereby a widower marries the female relative of his deceased wife, and a ghost marriage is a marriage between one or two deceased individuals in order to create an alliance between lineages. Would you be open to having more than one spouse? Well, how do various cultures approach this? When we talk about the number of spouses, there's monogamy, in which an individual is allowed only one spouse, and there is serial monogamy, which is being allowed only one spouse at a time. There's polygamy, which the term that refers to plural spouses. And under that is polygyny, which a man is allowed to have multiple wives, and polyandry, where a woman is allowed to have multiple husbands. There's also one which is less common, which is group marriage, where several men and women are allowed to be married simultaneously to one another. And finally, just a look at how polyandry operates. We know that usually in those cultures where it exists, it has to do with a limited number of resources, and you will have a woman who will have more than one husband. Oftentimes they are brothers, but it helps to preserve property, it helps to preserve land. This concludes our discussion of kinship, family, and marriage.